What is up, everybody? Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, we're talking all things San Francisco 49ers after their 22 to 17 loss to the Minnesota Vikings, back-to-back road losses. Tough, 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 tough. I got the TV on in front of me. They got Pat McAfee, and he's showing a bunch of Kirk Cousins, and Cousins is smiling. He got the top 10 chain on, all that good stuff. So we're going to discuss all that and more right here. Of course, this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Go to underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code Crocky. I'm not going to lie. That was probably the worst last night during that game was probably the worst underdog fantasy day I've ever had because I had 4 different slips that were one player off, and 2 of them was either a carry, right? So I took the higher on McCaffrey's. It was like a live bet, but I took the higher on his carries, and he got 15. I needed him to get 16. The carries thing was 15 and a half. He got 15. Shout out to Brock Purdy, who took those that carry away from me when he did like 3 straight quarterback sneaks. That hurt. And then Brock Purdy, he was half a yard short of hitting his. So, I mean, they left so much money on the board for me. That was tough. So on top of the 49ers losing, I missed out on a lot of money in that game. Goddamn Brandon Ayuk not getting any catches in the second half. I don't even want to talk about it. But anyways, shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. I know y'all didn't come here to hear me vent about my losses on Underdog Fantasy. Y'all came here to hear everybody else vent about the 49ers loss on the field to Minnesota Vikings. And there's no other person to help me go over this and discuss this. All right. No better person than Ashley. All right. So Ashley, good morning. How are you doing in the midst of what I'm watching right now, a Brock Purdy interception that they're showing on Pat McAfee? It was the last one, but we'll get to the specifics of this game. How are you just feeling about the 49ers after they dropped 2 straight games?
A big turnaround from the start of the season. I'm feeling like they could lose any of their games coming up, which was kind of ironic because I feel like at one point we were coming on here thinking, when will they lose a game? You know, maybe that Eagles will be a good test for them, but the Seahawks, no problem. The Bengals, they look slow. And now we look at the schedule and the Bengals look red hot. They're starting out good. The Eagles are in a completely different class. It's no longer 1A, 1B with the Eagles 49ers. There is a big gap between the performances. So just a little bit disappointed. You know, did the 49ers just peak in September? That's kind of problematic.
That is tough, and that's kind of what I don't want to say. That's what it feels like. There's some kind of rut that they've kind of ran into, and I don't know the issues and to what extent this is. I do look at the roster and I feel like it is a terrific roster. And I think even with Debo Samuel being out or George Kittle, they have all the pieces that they need to, really come up, big and win big. But there's some issues that definitely have to be addressed. A lot of people have different issues with this game. And I want to start with Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator. All right. He's taking a lot of heat right now. And just from a broad angle, and I'll get your opinion on Wilkes and how he's done, but I get the vibe that people just think, oh, this guy stinks. This is terrible. This is bad. Oh, my goodness. The sky is falling. When you look at a lot of the numbers that the 49ers defense has put up to this point, it's actually pretty good. It's one of the better defenses in the NFL, a top defense. I think we can look at specifics in the sense of certain play calls and how 49ers really kind of got torch from a yardage standpoint. But even then, at the end of the day, the 49ers defense gave up 22 points. Like, that's not fire this coordinator. He's terrible. Worst coordinator out there. Like, I'd say the circumstances, Kirk Cousins, he doesn't have Justin Jefferson. It's not this amazing offense. They haven't been great. I understand it from that standpoint, but 22 points in a game where it was tough to come by points on your offense, that he's getting all the heat. I think that there should be more heat on the 49ers offense, and they're kind of getting a pass. defensively, and we'll get to the specifics of the defense and certain players that I feel like need to step up. But dude, you 22 points, you should have an opportunity. And I think they kind of did, but you need your offense to score more than 17. This is an offense that was scoring what 33 points a game through the first 5 weeks. All right, through the first 5 weeks, the offense scored 33 points a game. So in a game where your defense gives up 22 points, that's not crazy. Like we watched the Miami Dolphins give up. Was it the Dolphins? The Broncos give up 70 points. We've seen a team, the Dolphins. Somebody put like 50 on the Dolphins. I think it was the Buffalo Bills. Put 50 on the Dolphins. Like there's been some wild scores. 22 points is the most points the 49ers given up all year, and you want to fire the defensive coordinator? The defensive coordinator is terrible. He doesn't know what he's doing. I think that's a little ridiculous. And I think that a lot of this, the issues from last night need to be pointed at the offense because the defense ain't going to be great all the time. Like there's other good coordinators, there's good, but control what you can control. This is a team that's supposed to score points, and they didn't. So who do you think the blame should go on? Offense with Kyle Shanahan, who only scored 17 points. Why are we not talking about that? Or the defense, who gave up 22 points?
Well, I think I know what side of the ball you want me to choose, but I think that the defense does deserve some criticism before we completely skip over them. Maybe they're only letting up 22 points, but giving up, was it 378 yards on the ground? They had penalties at the worst time. They generally didn't, the Vikings didn't punt, I don't think, until was it the third quarter? Like they
That is true.
continuously let him walk down the field. I don't think necessarily the problem is the
Part of
amount
that
of
too, though.
movements
Remember,
that they.
49ers picked off a pass, so that had something to do with it as well.
Yes, but I felt like they were playing a lot of off coverage. I felt like I wonder when it comes to Steve Wilkes's scheme. I wonder if there's something on camera or on film that might be found out. Kirk Cousins never looked uncomfortable at all, and he looked like he didn't have to take a second to like figure out where to throw the ball. He knew exactly. It seemed like he was the one calling the defense. Like no pressure, nothing in his face. And even if there was, he could throw the ball immediately. He knew where there would be an open spot. So I'm interested, is there something maybe that's being put on film where the 49ers defense are a little bit too predictable? Do they need to be stunting more? Because I think they're the type of team where when they line up, you know exactly what they're going to do post snap. And potentially that's becoming a really big issue. Maybe in prior seasons or earlier on in the year, maybe that wasn't as big of a problem because some of these defensive ends were getting home or the quarterback was a little bit more flustered. But Kirk Cousins just looked completely elite against this defense. And I think the reason for it taking so much criticism is, I mean, all the money, they're paying Nick Bosa quarterback money. And was he in the game last night? So I know that people say you can't only count sacks, but right now, no one is, Randy Gregory is making the biggest impact on the team, and he got here 2 weeks ago for this defense. So I think some criticism is extremely warranted. We don't have to get into it right now, but that play call before the end of the half, I just feel like there's maybe fans are more harsh on this defense. Also, comparing him to D'Amico and to Sala and how flat they look, like the missed tackles. When I was watching the game, multiple times I thought, where are the 49ers? Who are the 49ers? And that for me, I would have that thought when they were on defense, because to me, the 49ers are a physical, strong, run game team, but also it's their defense. Their defense was the side of the ball that carried them, that set the tone. Obviously, their offense missing Deebo Samuel, he's also a tone setter. But I felt like this defense looked, I don't want to say soft, but and Fred Warner had that one good play where he was flying around, but I've never seen them just get dog walked, for like a lack of a better term. Like they just looked uh, not like themselves. So I think that when people are criticizing the team, potentially the reason the defense gets more criticism is like our expectations for our defense are higher as 49er fans just over the years. Could that be possible? Because I see what you're saying. 17 points isn't enough, but I think just when we look at the defense, maybe as for fans, for myself, my expectation I'm much more let down by a poor defensive performance than an offensive performance, because I think in the Jimmy G era, we're kind of used to the defense being the one that can take over and win you the game. And now it seems like the offense does have to score, 30 points to win, and that's like not super sustainable.
Well, they actually didn't have to score 30 points to win. They just had to score more than 17 and they would have probably won. Listen, this is an offensive league. Everything, all the rules, everything that they put in, everything they implement is geared towards the offense being able to score points. Everything that they do is geared towards aiding the offense to score points. They call a pass interference or whatever they call it on Travarius Ward. And we were kind of taught, on a double move, collide with the defender. Now, in college, wouldn't be an issue because there's no illegal contact. High school wouldn't be an issue. There's no illegal contact. NFL, there used to not be illegal contact, but they put that in because they want to keep offenses on the field more. They want more points. They want everybody to score. So in the game, again, where your defense gives up 22 points, which I understand the standard. I saw my guy Mike Shields in the chat. He's like, well, the 49ers set the standard how they're going to play defensively, and they fell below that. Or if they fall below that for a couple games or whatever, understand that. But the offense then needs to pick it up, right? If the defense isn't going to only give up 10 points like they did against the Cowboys and make plays like they did against the Cowboys, then the offense has to score points. Yeah, you did it against the Cowboys, like, okay, that's great. Well, can you do it against the Browns? Can you do it against the Vikings? And when they needed the offense to give them a little more, I mean, how many points did they give up against the Browns? What was it, 19? Was it 19 points?
Yeah.
I think. Was it 17 to
Yes.
19? I think they lost. All right. So you give up 19 points to them, 22 points. That's not like crazy defensively to give up that many points. Now you might say the circumstances, the Justin Jefferson list, Minnesota Vikings. You might say a Cleveland Browns team with no Deshaun Watson or Nick Chubb. I understand that. But at the end of the day, 19 points, 22 points. Offensively, you should be able to score more than that. So in an offensive driven league, everything is geared towards offense. This loss is on the offense. Now we can look at specific plays and we can talk about the play before the half where Wilkes blitzed and they didn't have help over the top.
Why did he do
I
that?
don't know what Wilkes was trying to do. All right.
Okay.
Let's say this. If Wilkes was trying to force an errant pass, maybe speed up the quarterback's time clock, have him throw a bad pass, give his guy an opportunity to make an interception. He did that. The ball hit Travarius Ward in the chest. So we're talking about this play call. We're talking about, and I understand, just have somebody over the top. They don't have time, whatever. But at the end of the day, the highest paid player in your secondary, the ball hit him in the chest, and he didn't make the play. So we can blame Wilkes, and I saw somebody say we're using Wilkes as a scapegoat. I think so, because this loss is 100% on Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers undisciplined offense. Okay, I understand stuff on defense, but the offense, everything is geared towards you. You scored 17 points. You fumbled in the red zone. You're getting delay of game penalties coming out at halftime. What are you doing?
Coming out
Delay
of
of
the
game
2-minute drill,
penalties,
too.
clock running down, multiple interceptions by your quarterback. This loss is 100% on the offense and Kyle Shanahan. They got to get it together. 2 weeks in a row, they've laid some stinkers. We gave them a pass last week. We understand the elements and it's wet, so not great. Then you lose Debo, you lose McCaffrey, you have a hampered Trent Williams. So we'll give you a pass. That should be a one-off. But then to turn around and lose this game, that's on them. Now, my guy Mike Shields says, hey, we only ran 53 plays. Then stay on the field and run more plays. Pick up more first downs.
Okay, but
I looked at
also
the third
defense get
down
off the
conversion
field.
rate. Like, it wasn't high. Like, so, again, in an offensive-driven league, you score 17 points and lose, the loss is on you because everything is geared towards offense. And as this guy that's a defensive guy, I hate it, but it's clear what the NFL is trying to do. They want points scored. And 49ers, who average 31, 32 points per game through 5 weeks, scored 17 points in back-to-back weeks. This loss is on them.
Do you think that if the 49ers defense could have gotten off the field, they would have potentially given the offense some more opportunities to score?
Well, that's what Mike is
I
saying.
like this.
But
Yeah.
again, then why do you need all these more opportunities to score? Why don't you just score? Right?
Okay,
Like
but
do what the Vikings. The
all
Vikings,
their money is
the
on.
Vikings were on the field. They had a ton of third downs. I think they had 13 third down attempts. I think they converted on 8 of them. Not ideal, not great. They had some penalties, whatever, right? By the end of the day, 17 points or 22 points.
Okay.
49ers. Whatever you're doing offensively, it was not enough. Like that's my thing. So if their offense
Yeah.
isn't getting off the
I
field,
agree.
then our offense can't get off the field. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. We'll talk
If their
about.
offense
Well,
is keeping the 49ers defense on the field because they're converting or whatever to the extent of 22 points, then offense we need to convert to the extent of 23 points or whatever it is, but more than them. And that just didn't happen. It didn't happen.
yeah.
You know,
I
so
want to say I feel like I'm making a case for the defense, but I want to say like I agree with you. I'm extremely disappointed in Kyle Shanahan's game plan, and I kind of like that you're maybe refocusing the narrative because I think Kyle Shanahan has had a theme of always having someone else to blame besides him when games like this happen. But really quick before we get there, I do want to say with the defense, like no matter how poorly the offense uh performed, it reminds me of like how many games did Jimmy G try to throw the game away, but under Robert Saleh, the defense was able to come back and win it for them. And I think that that's why maybe my initial reaction and most people in this fan base's initial reaction is to point out the defense because they've been the side of the ball that sets the standard for the that sets the tone for the 49ers as a whole. They've been the ones that can come back and kind of save them and give them the opportunity to win the game, which they did. They did give them the opportunity to win at the very end. Um, but I think they
that's
do
happened
deserve a
back
little
to
bit of
back weeks now.
criticism.
So
Like
so again,
who
we're
got
blaming the
0 sacks? Why did they get 0 sacks with Kirk Cousins missing his one like the best weapon they have? Why did they run all over them? The Vikings are like the worst run team in the NFL right now and just made the 49ers, who are paying quarterback money on their defensive line to not only Nick Bosa, but like multiple guys, and they just ran all over them. So I feel like I well, I appreciate your passion to refocusing this conversation to the offense, which we should do like immediately. But I just want you to acknowledge that this defense. I mean, you have to be disappointed. Like, is it like does Wilkes need to get out of the booth? Like, it felt like they didn't have any like hoorah in them. Like I wanted someone to like go down there and like yell at them or something. Like they seemed slow and stagnant. Like I think that they kind of think they can wake up and turn it on and be this elite defense and this top defense. Why were they able to do it for Dallas and not this team? It seems like when they I feel like the problem is and this is a theme that they showed last year. Sometimes the 49ers can play down to their competition, and it seemed like in the beginning of this year that they weren't going to do that anymore. That they realized, "Hey, I need to get the number 1 seed. We're going to steamroll all these people. We're not going to be playing down." And this game, it should have been a game that they dominated this team by far. And I think when you look at it, it's hard not to look at the defense that is normally such a dominant uh unit and see why did all these expensive guys look so pedestrian? But then we can I'm very with you on let's criticize Kyle after that.
you brought up them being able to run the ball on the 49ers. They actually weren't. They had one run that was really good early in the game, a 19-yard run by Alex Madison. But outside of that, not even outside of that, including that run, a 19-yard run and a 13-yard run by Cam Akers, all right, including those plays, they had
That
74
run, that
total rushing
13
yards.
was a very
74 total rushing yards. They averaged 3.5 yards per carry. That's not bad run defense. But you know what? You know what was
that's more
worse
than Christian
than
McCaffrey average.
74 rushing yards and 3.5 yards per carry? What was worse was what the 49ers did. So I'm
Yeah.
taking it right back to their
Yeah.
offense.
Okay.
65 yards on the ground for the 49ers, 3 yards per carry, and obviously a lost fumble. So again, uh, is this the here we go. So now we're taking it a different angle.
Yeah, I like
Brock
it.
Purdy. All right, no. Hold on. We're gonna get to Brock Purdy in a second. I want to keep it defense a little bit. You did have some great points with guys not showing up. Nick Bosa is the highest non-play quarterback in the league. If at the time he signed, he was. If he's still not, all right. The expectations are there. You have to get a sack. I don't. When your team needs it, like they didn't. He didn't show up. Right. We could talk about the pressures. We could talk about his pass rush PFF rate, which is really high. But at the end of the day, where's the impact play at? Where's the place? Because every time I turn on the TV and I see the Pittsburgh Steelers, guess what I see? JJ Watt making a play, interceptions, taking it to the crib, fumble recoveries, forced fumbles, 3 sacks against the team lost, but it wasn't because of him. 3 sacks against the 49ers, two forced fumbles against the 49ers. And then I turn on, I'm watching Myles Garrett against the damn Colts, a Colts team who scored what 38, 39 points against that Browns team that's finals
Yeah.
can score on last
Yep.
week, but that's a whole nother
Yeah.
story. All right, but Myles Garrett sack strip in the end zone, right? Impact play. His teammate recovers it for a touchdown. Where are those plays from your big money guys on the 49ers defense? So again, I'm not going to blame the defense as much because again, like I said, I think this is on the offense. You got to score more points. But you do make a valid point when some of the guys that are making a lot of money for the 49ers, they were non-existent in the sense of and the field goal block for Myles Garrett. Shoot, we talking about impact. We talking about impact. And I don't even think Myles Garrett's current. I think it's TJ Watt, who's the current front runner for defensive player of the year. TJ Watt is like leading the league in sacks, multiple interceptions, defensive touchdowns. I think he might have 3 defensive touchdowns right now. Like he's going crazy. Watt is the front runner, but Myles Garrett's right there. Where is Nick Bosa? And you needed him last night. I don't care if he's getting double. I don't care if he's getting chipped. I see him get chipped at times. These other guys, they're fighting through that, and they're still figuring out ways to make plays, impact play.
Sorry to interrupt, but I was watching him yesterday because I didn't understand. I'm like, are they doing something different? Why is so it's not that he's like getting pancaked, but he's slipping a lot. He did it 4 times in the game, and I only started watching this because I heard Rob Statsegura pointed out last game, and I was like, oh, what is this? Where like he'll go against the guy and he'll kind of like trip up and slip, and he ends up on the ground. So I don't know. I feel like he deserves like some questions on, hey, do you think at this point maybe you should have signed earlier and been at camp or something? I feel like a lot of people are saying it might be good that he was away because he was in Florida working out, whatever, but there's something I wish I understood what teams are doing because Nick Bosa has always been chipped. He's always been double teamed. Why all of a sudden does he have 2.5 sacks in 7 games? Like that's insane.
Case 49 says Browns D just gave up 38 points to a backup. They did. The Browns D just gave up 38 points. But guess what? The offense scored 39. So if you're going to give up points, the offense just has to score more. Again, there's going to be games like that where your defense is not perfect. And we're talking about backup quarterbacks and PJ Walker and those guys. We're not talking about Brock Purdy, who everybody says is the second coming of Joe Montana. Right, so you've had opportunity. I got on the defense. I got Nick Bosa and those guys make plays. I got on Travarius Ward, because I think they're using Wilkes as a scapegoat. Travarius Ward, whatever he called, the ball hit you in the chest. You didn't come down with the interception. All right, so I am going to get on those guys, but offensively, you need to score more than 17 points in back-to-back games. We talk about the standard and falling short of the standard. That's not the 49ers standard. Brock Purdy, you contributed to this. His numbers, they don't look terrible. I think, if you just look at the numbers, efficient, right? 21 for 30, 9 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown pass. But then you had the 2 interceptions, and then you had just missed throws. And when you had opportunities to score, you had back-to-back opportunities to make a play. Look, for everything that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't, and I do think that Brock Purdy has played better football for the 49ers than Jimmy Garoppolo ever did. All right. But for everything that Jimmy wasn't, you give him 2 cracks at scoring late in the game, 9 times out of 10, one of those he's going to score, right? Yeah. If not score on the first time and the 49ers win. Like we saw that. He might be bad for an entire game. I thought that the Browns game was a very Jimmy Garoppolo-esque game where it's like, man, you're bad, you throw interception, you miss throw, ball stick in your hand, not pretty, and then you drive, and all of a sudden, boom, and the field goal, and that was it, he had an opportunity to win. Kicker missed. All right, I understand that. But this game, you had two opportunities to, and Shields said, not in the postseason. I beg your pardon, because in the Green Bay Packers game, and we talking about now, we're going back to Jimmy Garoppolo. Green Bay Packers game, was Nick Bosa great in that cold weather, in that 0-degree weather? I mean, I said Nick Bosa. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't great in that game. He threw a bad red zone interception, but guess what he did? When the 49ers needed a few throws to get in position to kick a field goal and win, he made it at the end of the game. All right. So I'm not saying that Jimmy was this great quarterback. He was not. All right. And I'm not saying that Jimmy is better than Brock. He is not. I think Brock is better. But in situations like this, I was very confident that at some point Jimmy was going to put the 49ers in position to win the game. And
Yeah.
we saw Brock Purdy have a couple opportunities, and he threw interceptions on both of them. All right.
Yeah.
So uh, we are also talking about one quarterback who still hasn't started 16 games in the NFL. So I'm going to continue to give him a pass for that, right? Like,
Yeah.
but as of right now, it feels like he does need a lot of some of the other guys to do some of the heavy lifting. And
Yeah.
also right now,
Coming in.
when it feels like there's a little bit of pressure, right? Because hey man, you only have so many opportunities to score. The defense isn't getting off the field, so you have less possessions, and now the pressure is on the offense a little bit. And we always wonder what that would look like. It feels like he's pressing a little bit, and
Yeah.
maybe not coming through when you
And
need
he
him
did
to.
that in
So,
college. He did
and
that.
he
He
did that in
pressed a
college.
lot.
You start to see
He
weird
pressed a
things.
lot in college. He had some really bad interceptions. And coming into this game, he actually was fourth in the NFL in turnover worthy plays. So he just had really good luck. And now it seems like you're kind of seeing if he doesn't have his entire slate of weapons healthy, that maybe that luck is turning around a little bit. I pointed this out after the Browns game, but he does this thing that irritates the crap out of me because it kind of reminds me of that NFC Championship loss that the final pass in against the Rams. But Brock Purdy did it like 4 times last game, and then he did it again this game, and it ended up being a penalty or something. So the throw was like not caught, but he almost threw another interception. And it's when he's getting sacked, he'll like kind of try to turn as he's falling, and then like throws the ball just up, like not like to the sideline, not to like a person, but just throws it up. And you're like, oh my God, you're gonna get a sack and throw an interception. Can you stop doing that? And that's what Jimmy G did at the very end against the Rams in that final game. But yeah, Brock Purdy, it's a habit that I noticed because I noticed it a couple times before, but he's always gotten lucky on it. But he did it 4 times against the Browns, and then he got a penalty on it this game. Um, I think Brock Purdy looked solid for most of the game, aside from a few erratic throws up until the fourth quarter. And that, unfortunately, is when you want your quarterback to be the best. In the most pivotal, high stakes moments, it seemed like Brock Purdy was extremely flustered. His connection with Brandon Ayuk still looks really good. That is nice. He showed a little bit of athleticism when he had some pressure, but then there was also some plays that he didn't have pressure, and I don't know if it's one of those things where if you're like hit, you know, 4 out of 5 times, that then on the fifth time you kind of anticipate the pressure. So maybe that's why. But he was throwing erratically even when he did have a clean pocket sometimes, which was kind of freaking me out as well.
I think that's the scary thing, and some of the things you talked about with him, kind of like about to get sacked and kind of just throws the ball up. Like those are things that we did see at Iowa State. Iowa State.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are things that we did see at Iowa State where he's kind of prone to do that. Where it feels like it's like, oh, I have to do everything. Well, it's like with the 49ers, you haven't had to do everything. So I don't think we've seen him in that type of situation. But the last 2 weeks where you have to do a little bit more heavy
I have a
lifting,
question.
yeah,
Sorry. When you said that, I just don't want to forget. The mindset I have to do everything. I want to criticize Purdy more, but after this, I want to criticize Kyle Shanahan because, like, why does your quarterback think he has to do everything? I understand Debo was out. You literally have like 3 other players and then like 2 other extremely good players. Like, there should be zero reason that Brock Purdy felt that way. I feel like he's still sorry. I feel like Brock Purdy's a seventh round pick, and I think maybe people got, too excited with the Joe Montana comparisons, which clearly Joe Montana was a guy who always in the end, if he was trailing, would come back and win. So we should never make those comparisons again. But like in general, like the Shanahan scheme is supposed to take care of your quarterback. Why are you ever putting Purdy in a position, or why is he ever in the mindset that he needs to do everything? Like that seems like a coaching error between, or a communication error between him and Purdy, and maybe Kyle not scheming up things as well as possible. Like I was really disappointed with this game plan. I feel like we gave them excuses for Kyle not making in-game adjustments last game, but he had an entire week. Why wasn't Ray way more heavily involved for the Debo role? George Kittle, he made some good passes towards the second half, but I think it was going into the second half, he had like 2 touches. Why was George Kittle like? I don't know. I was more frustrated with Kyle Shanahan than Brock Purdy, but we can go back to Brock Purdy. Just when you said he was in that mindset, that kind of, I don't know. To me, yeah, that's a Brock Purdy problem, but that's also a coaching problem, because either A, you know that your quarterback is prone to think that way, or B, you're putting your quarterback in a position to think that way. Not trying to
No,
say
no,
that he doesn't deserve criticism. Just
that is an NFL quarterback issue. At some point, the pressure is going to be on you. Like at some point, it's not going to be easy peasy. At some point, everything isn't 100% going to go your way, right? I always talked about last year, and again, I am not with me saying these things. I'm not off of Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is the 49ers quarterback. He's the guy moving forward. I think that these are things he just kind of has to go through. I didn't think that everything was just going to be way up here his entire career, and there was never going to be any low moments. Again, I want to acknowledge that he has not even started 16 games in the NFL. I got to stop saying 16, 17, because they do 17 regular season games now. He has not started a regular season slate of games yet. So by no means am I saying that I'm out on him or he's just this erratic quarterback or whatever. But as he's gaining experience, we are going to find out more about what he does well, what he doesn't do well, his limitations, etc. And as far as the pressure being put on Brock Purdy, that is going to happen when you play quarterback at the NFL level. It just is what it is. Not every game is going to be Christian McCaffrey running for 120 yards and Debo Samuel catching an 8-yard pass that he turns into a 75-yard touchdown, or Brandon or Kyle Shanahan scheming up these massive windows. Or because you're playing so far ahead, you're more inclined to throw tight window throws because you're way more relaxed, right? At some point, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you, and you still have to be able to perform the same way that you would if that pressure wasn't on you. I heard somebody was talking on TV. Actually, I was in the gym, get my little pump in, and I heard this guy on TV, former offensive lineman in the NFL, say, "Oh, it's just he led the NFL in tight window throws, etc." Tight window throws when you're comfortable, when you're confident, when you are seeing everything clearly, when you're playing, when you're ahead, right? Like those things
yeah.
are
49ers
easier
are front runners.
when you're. And I'm talking about just quarterbacks in general. Like when everything is going your way, it's easier, quote unquote, to make those tight window throws, to attempt those type of passes and feel confident with the outcome. When everything is tight and you're behind and it's like, dang, our defense isn't playing as well as they usually do. Christian McCaffrey's only averaging 3 yards a carry, right? I don't have Debo Samuel. Are you going to start? Are you still going to be that same guy when the pressure isn't on? And right now we're seeing that he's not handling that very well. So I look at some of these comments here. And we got Brandon Ben. He says McCaffrey fumbled. That's minus 7 points. Snake Snake Booty. I like the nickname B. All right. Snake Booty field goal miss. That's minus 3 points. All right. 49ers lose by 8. What do we learn? Basically saying is, hey, these couple mistakes, that's the difference. But issues
Also,
like
though,
that
Brock Purdy was
arise in
5 of
games,
11
and they
in
happen
defensive.
early. Both of those plays happened early in the game. You had ample opportunity to overcome those, and you couldn't do it. All right. I got another one here from Andre, and he says, "We didn't run the ball good, and Purdy needs that." Well, again, these are things that we're going to find out. Does he need the 49ers to run well, or at least a threat of a run game? And if not, does he start to get erratic? All right. And here's one more. Uh, Is Purdy's poor play a reflection of Kyle's sometimes erratic play calling and overuse of CMC? You know what? I think his use of CMC actually really helped Brock Purdy. If you look at what they did coming out of halftime, I think he threw the ball to Christian McCaffrey like 4 out of the next 5 passing attempts, one that ended up going for a touchdown. So we could talk about the overuse of it, but I think he was trying to, oh, okay, I see my quarterback, he's pressing a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me get him some throws in space to Christian McCaffrey and let Christian McCaffrey do the heavy lifting. All right. And some of those are things that he's done with Debo Samuel when Purdy starts to kind of get, when the game starts to kind of maybe get a little away with. Think about the New York Giants game coming out. What was everybody saying? Oh, bad first half, terrible first half. What happened on the first drive? 3 erratic passes, bad passes. What they do on the next drive, they said, all right, we're going to throw screens. Screen to Debo Samuel. He picked up a bunch of yards. Screen to Christian McCaffrey. He picks up a bunch of yards. You know what I'm saying? So I think
That's
Kyle
kind of
understands at times this game starts to get away from him. Let me call some plays to kind of reel him in. He reeled him back in, got him in more of a comfortable state. But then it's like, all right, we got to make some throws downfield. And okay, couple good throws.
what
There was some a couple good layered throws. Boom, good timing, etc. But when the pressure was on and you needed those throws, it didn't happen. So that's tough. I'm not saying that Purdy would never be that guy. He just wasn't that guy in this game. And right now, we're still finding out more about him on a week to week basis, and he's still finding more about himself and continuing to gather information on what he can and can't do. And this all goes into experience. So I'm interested to see how that aspect of it plays out. But overall, I think a lot of people want to find out who's the problem, who's the issue, etc. I think that when your defense doesn't play a great, amazing game, your offense needs to score more than 17 points.
I think you're correct on that. And when we're talking about Purdy, he's just not clutch right now, especially under pressure. In the fourth quarter, he was 5 of 11 for 58 yards and 2 interceptions. He had opportunities like that guy, previous guy was pointing out that if McCaffrey didn't fumble and Moody makes his field goal, there was also opportunity for Purdy to score a touchdown at the end there, and he failed both times. So I think he does deserve criticism, and it kind of worries me. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan maybe knows a little bit more about Brock Purdy than fans do, because to me that's kind of surprising that Brock Purdy was in that position. But when we reflect on the decision to play Christian McCaffrey, maybe Kyle Shanahan knew, hey, like this guy's going to need an easy out right here, and because you talked about him being, overused and really relied upon. Imagine if he wasn't in this game. I know he made that critical mistake, which some people, I wonder how you feel about this. Some people say that changed the momentum so much that potentially if Christian McCaffrey doesn't fumble there, that gets in the Vikings' head. They think, okay, the 49ers are a different class of team. But I don't, just because or if it did change momentum and then the 49ers weren't able to swing it back, to me, that's almost a bigger issue. So I don't really see that as an excuse. I would not put this on Christian McCaffrey's fumble at all. Or even him being held to 3.5 yards just because he was utilized so much in those like short dump off passes and then hit right away.
Johnny Dale's Football Academy. He does a great job breaking down film
Yeah.
on his YouTube channel. He said the tackling on the field on the tape is really bad. Johnny, I
Yeah.
actually
Fred
sent
Warner
you
looking at
an
that.
invite to come on here. If you want to come on for just a few minutes and just explain some of the things that you're seeing on film while breaking that down, please, please, please feel free to come on. I sent it to you on Twitter. You should see it in your DMs. We only need about 5 minutes. Just kind of, just give some of your thoughts because I saw you say it's too much to type in the chat. But appreciate everything that you do for the 49ers community, the YouTube community, and all that. The invitation is there if you have time. If you don't, you ain't gotta come on. But if you do, come on, man, so people can maybe get a different perspective because I have not rewatched the game and I have not watched the all 22 yet. So would love to get him
Glad
on there
to
just to
hear it.
get some ideas on what he's seen so far. We
Definitely.
got Richard in the chat. He says, "Go Eagles!
Go
No one
Eagles.
likes us. We don't care." Uh, as it pertains to other teams in the NFL, you said, you know what, 49ers, it has been 1A, 1B with the Eagles, however you want to spin it.
Yeah.
But you're saying now the Eagles are just in a different tier. So is that something
Yeah.
that
And
maybe
I
over the
think
next game,
even
if
if
the
they beat
49ers go and handle Cincinnati, If you see the 49ers go in and they handle Cincinnati, will you be more confident that, you know what, maybe the 49ers are back in that tier with the Eagles? Or are you like, nope, I actually, at this time now, kind of need to see the 49ers beat the Philadelphia Eagles later this year?
I kind of feel I will obviously I'm such an emotional fan, so there obviously will be some part of me that is like, all right, we're back. Like that was just like a little hiccup. I think Hafunga was saying after the last game, that was a good loss because it taught them a lesson and it kind of woke them up. But then now when you have two games in a row, you're like, okay, well, kind of like for a while, I felt like we couldn't predict under 30 points because they had set the precedent that they were always going to score 30 points. Now I'm like, okay, well, the precedent you're setting is that you're not going to show up for these games and that maybe you're lacking your identity. I think because what is the 49ers identity right now this season? If you were to try to tell, if I didn't know football and you were telling me what's the 49ers identity this season, because it's always,
What?
in my opinion, been their physicality, their defense, their run game. Now to start the year, it was, their offensive production was showing out, but they just are so inconsistent that if to answer a question, and then you can answer my millions of questions I'm giving back to you, but if they beat the Bengals, as a fan, I would be happy. As a skeptic, I would want to see more because this team has proven that they're inconsistent. And it could be like in the same way that those two games could be a fluke, them beating Cincinnati could be a fluke. And maybe they come out against Jacksonville and everyone thinks, okay, like they're going to beat Jacksonville. Jacksonville, they're scrappy, but they're not in the same class as the 49ers. 49ers fly, across the country there and they get their ass handed to them. Then everyone's like, all right, well, who are they? And I can see that. I can see them beating the Bengals and then that happening against Jacksonville coming up a bye week. So that would, to me, how I'm going to make my decision about the 49ers moving forward is can they beat Cincinnati and look, not like scrape it out, but can they look like, hey, defense, I'm here, I'm awake. Hey, offense, I'm running smoothly, even if Deebo Samuel is out. We're getting Jordan. Why wasn't Jordan Mason involved? Like the game plan from both the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator looked good. Brock Purdy looks like he can. I mean, we're always going to question Brock Purdy now until he's down again. But so to answer, no, if they beat the Bengals, I won't feel miraculously better. But as a fan, it'll make me happy. But I think we'll learn a lot more about them when they go against after Jacksonville and then eventually against the Eagles. But for right now, I don't think that they can be in that 1A, 1B conversation. They could be 1 and 2. They're still there. They can show back up. They can put themselves back in there. But I don't think one win against the Bengals, who have also been a really inconsistent team, is going to super change my mind.
Shout out to Coach Desi. I see Coach Desi in the chat. We go on
Desi.
every Wednesday morning. Now, Coach Desi, I gotta call you or text you, or I might as well say it right now. I don't know if we'll be on tomorrow morning because I gotta take my car. My alignment. I thought it was my alignment was really off. You let go of your wheel and you let go of the steering wheel, and the car is supposed to keep going straight for the most part. Mine veers off to the right so bad. So I just thought, like, oh man, I gotta go get an alignment. So I took it in to get an alignment done. And they're like, it's not your alignment. It's all this other stuff. Some arm and something is like way off. And now it's gonna cost me $1,500 instead of $100 for a regular
Okay.
alignment. So not happy about that, but I have to take that tomorrow morning. So Coach Daisy, we're gonna figure out what time tomorrow we will record. I want to start with Medic Mike here because I saw Medic Mike in the chat and he says, this is one game and it doesn't prove anything. All it says is we played very poorly. I would say
Two
that if it
games.
were just last week against the Browns, but now we kind of followed that back up. So it's not just one game. It's two games in a row. But Medic Mike, I'm bringing you on live so you can give your perspective on this. What are your thoughts on the game? And welcome to the show.
First off, good morning, Croc. Good morning, Ashley.
Good morning.
My thoughts were, first off, I was disgusted after that game. But I want to keep it consistent. We couldn't get them off the field to save our life. Our defense played pathetically. It was bad. I mean, they had 66 plays to our 53. I remember a 2nd and 24, and they convert that in 2 downs. I remember a 3rd and 12 inside their 10, and they convert that. We're not talking about our level defense. I'm talking about basic average defense. You play to that level, we win that game, and we didn't. So my thing is be consistent. If you blame Charvarius Ward for giving up that touchdown, you blame CMC for fumbling 2 weeks in a row now inside the 10-yard line. If you blame
Yeah, that
Kyle
shit is
Shanahan,
crazy.
if you blame Kyle Shanahan for not having his offense ready and not scoring points, you blame Steve Wilkes for having 0 sacks and calling a cover 0 and not putting his players in the best position with 16 seconds left and they have 0 timeouts.
He 0 blitz. You said not putting your players in the best position. The ball hit his guy in the chest.
Did he score? Did Addison score?
Did his player was his player in the best position to make a play?
If you blame Kyle Shanahan and CMC, is CMC fumbling Shanahan's fault?
I didn't put it on Kyle. I put it on the offense.
But you blame Kyle. I heard you say, Kyle, part of this blame's got to go to you. Your offense scored 17. You said that.
Tougher. I like this guy.
You said
he's got to get some of the blame because at the end of the day, like you only scored 17 points. Like that's not just a play here and there or a play not made. It's like this is an offensive driven league. And in a league where even you, through the first 5 games, averaged over 30 points a game, the last 2 weeks, you've mustered up 17 points. Like, to me, that should be unacceptable from an offense. I understand the miscues. I understand Christian McCaffrey's role in that. But your offense, and you continue to do weird things sometimes, like where was Brandon Ayuk in the second half?
Yeah, I agree.
Why did he have 0 catches in the second half?
Why did the Vikings have 16 seconds and 0 timeouts, and you're going on a cover 0 blitz where something like that happens, they can score? 60-yard touchdown is unacceptable on all parties. The defensive coordinator and Charvarius Ward. You both get that heat. Everyone gets that heat. You had 0 sacks this game. You're getting that heat. You want to rush for it, and you're getting 0 pressure. Guess what, Wilkes? You better change something up, but you're getting that heat. If you blame Shanahan, you blame Wilkes too. If you blame Charvarius Ward, you blame CMC too. Everyone gets that heat. Moody missed 3 kicks in a row. We lost by 5 points. He missed 2 last week, and then he missed the first kick this week. We had 3 drives in the first half. 3, that's it. Because our defense was just getting mollywopped all up and down the field. 3 drives. And guess what?
Kirk Cousins. Primetime Kirk Cousins, too.
Yeah. Exactly. And our first drive, what do? Drive down in the red zone, fumble. Next drive, what do? Miss field goal. Then what do? Score a touchdown. So we're in scoring position every single drive of the first half, and your players don't execute. If you want to give that to Kyle Shanahan, perfectly fine with that. But you give Steve Wilkes that exact same heat because his defense not only didn't perform to their standard, they didn't even play average. They were pathetic. 24 first downs by the Vikings with no Justin Jefferson.
Points. Can we say 22 points given up is pathetic?
Yes, I can say that because you only ran 53 plays. If I only have 5 drives on offense for the whole game and I gave up 22 points, yes, that is pathetic.
Until the third, the Vikings didn't punt until the third quarter.
That's pathetic.
It's pathetic.
Yeah, that is horrible. That is pathetic. And they didn't even.
I hear his point.
When did the 49ers punt first? Because it sounds like they maybe didn't punt until the second half either.
They didn't punt until the second half either. But they only had 3 drives, which they're in scoring position every single one. That's my point. I'm okay with giving Kyle Shanahan that heat, but Wilkes gets it too. We're not scapegoating him. He gets it too.
I'm watching this throw right now, and Brock Purdy airmailed a pass to George Kittle, who was open, and really it turned into a hospital ball. What are your thoughts on Brock Purdy's play?
I thought Brock Purdy played well and began to deteriorate as the game went on. So he started off, he was dealing. He was hot. I think he started off 5 for 5 or 6 for 6. Yeah. He was looking pinpoint at the beginning of the game, and then we fumble in the red zone. He drives us down there again, and then we miss a field goal. And then the next one, we score a touchdown. So, I mean, he was doing what he was supposed to do, but when you have penalties, when you have undisciplined play, when you have different things that happen, like you said, this is his 16th regular season start, 17th regular season start.
I don't even think it is. I don't even think he started that many regular season games.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, he's somewhere between the 12 and 15 regular season games started. So the play up to this point, to have 0 interceptions through, 5 weeks, and then now you have 3 in your last 2. Oh, I get it. He wasn't going to go the whole season being interceptionless.
He was also like he has I think it's he's like 20th in pass attempts. So he's like he does not have that many pass attempts compared to most of the quarterbacks in the NFL. And he was 4th in turnover worthy plays before this game. So he's been like extremely lucky on that turnover luck. I think a lot of people have talked about him maybe protecting the football, and it seems like a lot of that might have been luck and not him protecting the football because he's given other teams the opportunity to intercept the ball a lot. He, like I said, top 5 in interceptable passes, even though he's bottom of the league in the amount of passes he's thrown.
I'd want to dive more into that stat to see what they actually consider an interceptable pass, because
PFF, so I don't,
Okay. Because over a 16-game span, because we now have essentially, with the playoffs included, I think 15 or 16 games worth of film and play on Purdy. And he's still, relatively speaking, his touchdown to interception ratio is really good. And so when you have that type of touchdown to interception ratio over that span, then I'm looking at the luck and I'm like, how much really is it luck? I mean, because now we kind of have a decent sample size. But I also think another point is I think our wide receiver room might have been overrated. I mean, I think last week, some of the big drops that Ayuk had, that perfect ball that Purdy threw to him that he should have caught, and then another one, your alpha number one receivers make that play. And also don't think Debo has been playing up to his contract either. So I think that may be something else we actually have to look at and we have to explore. But I don't want to go off too much off on a tangent on that. But yeah, as far as this game, it was piss poor all around. Any unit could have stepped up to help the other unit, and neither of them did. The offense could have stepped up to help the defense, and they did not. The defense could have just did their job, which they definitely did not. And the coordinators didn't put their players in the best position to succeed. So it was an all-around bad game. I'm not going to blame the offense over the defense.
And the kicker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Moody gets that heat too. Yeah. He's a rookie. You drafted him in the 3rd round. Sorry, bro. You got expectations.
Do you guys think it was a bad decision for Shanahan at the very end? I know he ended up making the 55-yard field goal, but the 49ers offense was so stagnant in getting down the field. I kind of wish he would have gone for it. The 49ers would have needed a touchdown no matter what. I kind of wish Kyle Shanahan would have gone for it there because they were not able to get back down the field again.
I think they also needed a 2-point conversion. So, there's kind of like 2 acts as opposed to just scoring a touchdown and then kicking the extra point. It's like, man, we got score a touchdown and get the 2-point conversion. So if we can get some of those points now, okay, kick the long field goal, boom, he makes it. Okay, we have now multiple opportunities to actually go and score another touchdown, and they just couldn't do it. Mike, I'm gonna get to the next caller, man, but I appreciate you coming on.
Yep. Appreciate y'all.
All right, here we go. I got Tia Ingram coming on, and then as soon as Tia's done, we're gonna finish up with Johnny, and he's gonna tell us all about what he's been seeing with his film breakdown. All right, so first up, we got Tia, and I know Tia is gonna bring the heat. Good morning, Tia.
Good morning. I can't. I was watching the Rangers last night, so my energy's with the Rangers. So I was watching the Niner game, but I really wasn't. I was watching baseball, so I'm kind of like,
the Rangers won, right?
Yes.
And Garcia, did he hit 2 home runs?
Yes, he got on base, then hit 2 home runs. Yeah, he was tearing them up. He getting hit.
I'm paying attention.
Woke him up.
I'm paying attention.
Okay, but watching when I was watching the game, to me it seemed like Kyle is really loving his new toy, Christian McCaffrey. It just seemed like he get into a habit where he just get about Christian McCaffrey. Like he was going to Ayuk, and then all of a sudden I don't know what happened, but it seemed like Ayuk wasn't even part of the plan anymore. And then I thought maybe this would be a Kittle game, kind of like against the Cowboys, where they didn't really have anybody to guard Kittle. And he really didn't use Kittle that much. So I'm just like, okay, I understand Debo wasn't out there, but we played games where Debo wasn't out there, and we still was able to do what we supposed to do. And, I understand Trent wasn't out there, but we really wasn't running to that side. Kind of, not really. I don't know. It just seemed like the offense now is more about CMC and not all the other playmakers that we have on the team. It's like he changed the entire offense to, okay, CMC is our number one guy. Like, he is the person, the focal point. And then I may give it to Kittle. I may give it to Debo. I may give it to IU. And it's just it's not a balanced offense. It seemed like it's not a balanced offense. That's what it seems like. And it seemed like BA is getting frustrated. Like,
Really
really
unclear.
frustrated. Yes.
Especially he was doing good. Like he was making his connection with Purdy look good. He was making every catch that he got, and then was just completely phased out at the end of the game. I
Right.
didn't mean to interject, but I was anticipating a Kittle game. I was anticipating Ayuk being involved, even Ray. And that kind of goes back to Kyle Shanahan criticism, is like he seems so uncreative. Like I understand he's excited with his new toy, but Christian McCaffrey is averaging either 3 yards or just under 3 yards a carry at this point. He went into the game with a oblique injury. Okay, if you need him for those dump offs against the blitz, that's fine. But I was disappointed with you had an entire week to scheme up these other guys and to be able to have answers to this pressure, and your only answer was just to dump off the ball to Christian McCaffrey every time, even if he's getting hit immediately. If I was
Exactly.
Ayuk, I would get frustrated too.
And I didn't like how where's Elijah Mitchell and where's Jordan Mason? Like, why? Because at
Why
some
was
point it's
Mason
gonna
not? He wasn't in the game at all.
at
It's
all. And
crazy.
at some point it's gonna be like when Mostert. Remember when Mostert got all those touches and then he started really becoming the number one? Then you saw what's his name from Atlanta was like Coleman. He was like, okay, well, y'all need to trade me, because if you're not gonna use me, why am I sitting here on the bench collecting cobwebs and I'm not gonna get in the game? So eventually you're gonna get some of these players who's like, okay, you have me on the roster, but you don't put me in the game. Or some of them don't even suit up. So I mean, like you said, when you continue to use Christian McCaffrey, what happens when he's not there? What are you going to do? Because you have to get everybody involved in the offense to be where they can be comfortable. So when we need somebody like an Ayuk, or we need somebody like a Ray or a Jawan, they already in the position where I already done this before. Like, this is nothing. I can go out here and make these catches. I can go out here and play to the best of my abilities. But it just seemed like he go to him early, and then he just like, forget it. I got to stick with Christian McCaffrey. That's my go-to person. It's like, I get it, but he's hurt. We got to play the Bengals next week. There's some studs over there, and I don't think he understand that. Like, the defense now, I'm looking at the Ravens game. I'm like, okay, what's the defense gonna do with Lamar Jackson? Because now he throwing the ball the way he is. Like, what we gonna do about Lamar Jackson? And
That's gonna
Joe
be tough.
Burrow. I
Joe
mean,
Burrow, that's gonna be tough
Joe
too.
Burrow ain't no scrub. Like, he can go toe to toe with you. So I really don't know. I don't know what's going on with Wilkes. I don't know what's going on with defense. I think they were pounding their chest a little bit too much, and they being real humble right now. Like, this is any given Sunday. And I think instead of them, everybody's going on social media beefing with people and doing interviews and doing all this extra stuff, y'all need to just hone in and focus on your craft and just worry about the game. Because right now it seems like it's a lot of outside noise, and they're more worried about the outside and then actually taking care of what's going on the field.
Mm.
And that's what it really kind of seemed like. Like, they poking their chest out like, oh, but we haven't won anything. I don't remember us winning the Super Bowl. If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken,
their
I could have sworn we
mindset.
lost. Did we not lose that Super Bowl? So I thought that would have been a humbling experience to say, okay, yeah, we were good, but we wasn't like we supposed to be. We should have been, playing our best abilities. But I just think that we're just poking our chest out because we beat a couple bad teams. And yeah, we blew them out, but they really wasn't that good. These games are the ones that matter, not the Dallas game. The ones that you're supposed to win, you're supposed to win. You shouldn't let a Vikings team who is 2-4 beat you the way that they beat you. You shouldn't let a Cleveland game who they don't even have a quarterback and their number one running back is out, and they ran the ball down our throats. So
Two games
until
in a
they
row where
realize,
the two
right,
games in a row where the team that we're going against, their best players out, and
best
they
players out, and they didn't even have Justin Jefferson. Could you imagine Justin Jefferson in that game yesterday? Oh my goodness, Traverius Ward would have looked like hot garbage. Because I don't know. I understand you blame Powell, but I think to me, our number one weakness has been always the corners. Ever since Harbaugh days, the corners, the corners, the corners. And if we're blitzing with 7 people, why? Why is Nick Bosa on the tight end? I don't know. That didn't make no sense. Why is Greenlaw on a wide receiver? What are we doing? Like, I shouldn't see Greenlaw running behind a wide receiver who's catching a touchdown in the end zone. That don't even make no sense to me. That's not the type of person that he is. He's a sideline to sideline. He should not be chasing no wide receiver down the field to make sure he don't catch that.
Yeah, Tia, that's tough because it just some things within the scheme of the defense and even the offense, right? Because we look at Kyle Shanahan like he's the most amazing play caller, but other guys are play callers too, and they understand defensive players' rules like Kyle Shanahan does. And sometimes they'll put your guys in conflict, and they know if hey, if we do this and we run through here, that linebacker is gonna have to carry you, and we'll have the advantage on that vertical. But Tia, I appreciate the call. I'm gonna get to the next caller now. All right.
All right, y'all have a good one.
All right, thank you. All right, about to get to my guy Johnny Dales came on. He's been waiting patiently. Let's get to a couple of these super chats real quick. We got Toby. He says we have a bunch of cream puffs on the defensive line. 44 dropbacks, only 6 pressures. You bust your butt to get paid. Then you play like cream puffs after you get paid. Debo, Bosa, Armstead. You kind of spell all these guys' names wrong, but I get what you're saying. All right, I get what you're saying. But we're gonna get back to that because I want Johnny to kind of talk about that as well. So I'll bring that one back up. But we got Randolph Williams here. He says, Croc, you need to go buy car parts. Okay, he's talking about my car. You know what's funny about that? Here's the thing. I'm so like, when I want something done, I just want it done right now. And we have Amazon Prime, and it'll come to my house like tomorrow. I probably should have been ordered the pieces. And the guy, when they first told me how much it was gonna cost, I was like, what? Like, they're like, do you want to pay right now? And I'm like, hell nah. Because you go somewhere and you're expecting to pay $90, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I came here expecting to pay $90 to get an alignment and even leaving y'all a tip, right? But now walk out of here, y'all call me and tell me, like, nah, you actually got to pay $1,475, whatever the hell they say. I'm like, what? I ain't paying that. So I got a couple of different second opinions, and they were all like, when they looked at what was going on with my car, everybody was like, you're gonna pay around 1,500 when it comes to parts and then labor. So I do need to buy the parts and then go get it done. But I'm too impatient. So I'm just gonna go tomorrow and pay $1,500.
You just gotta
all
bite
right.
the bullet sometimes.
I know, yeah. But I probably really could save like $500 to be honest. All right, here we go. We got my guy Johnny Dale coming on. He's been waiting patiently. Johnny, thank you for coming on. And again, I definitely want to thank you for everything that you do with your platform, your videos. Super informative. I know you've had my guy Greg Pinelli on, and he speaks highly of you. He's like, man, I saw him in Modesto. He was like, man, that Johnny guy, I don't know how he knows, but he knows his stuff. So you're doing a great job with that platform. You want to tell everybody where they can find your stuff?
Yeah, just on YouTube. You can follow it under Johnny Dale's Football Academy. You can Google it and you'll find me there under Johnny Dale's Football Academy. Thank you for having me on. Sorry I didn't see the notification on Twitter. I just got a brand new computer. I got to fix my hat. It was a little crooked, driving me nuts. But I just got a brand new computer, and so I've been setting things up and logging into all my old accounts. And I didn't do that with Twitter on my computer yet. So I just thank you for pointing that out on the stream, or I never would have seen it. But yeah, thanks for inviting me on.
All right, so. First, we want to get to this here and just get your opinion on this. You've been watching the film. Toby here says that we have a bunch of cream puffs on the defensive line, 45 dropbacks, only 6 pressures. You bust your butt to get paid. He's talking about Debo. He's talking about Bosa. He's talking about Armstead. It's like, where is the impact, at least for Bosa and Armstead last night? So do you have any thoughts on watching the all 22 and some of the things you're seeing from the defense?
Yeah, so I've talked for a while that, and you know this as a defensive back, that to really get those sacks, get those pressures, you have to have a good marriage of pass rush and coverage, and they're just out of sync. What you're seeing is times that we've had a good pass rush, coverage breaks down. Times that you have good coverage, we get no pass rush. And this is something that they have got to figure out how to lock down on those times. Sometimes they're getting out schemed. Sometimes they're getting out leveraged. Sometimes they're just not winning their one-on-ones. What I'm seeing a lot on film is that Bosa and Hargrave are getting the lion's share of the attention. They're getting about 90% of the attention What you're seeing is a lot of center slides to Hargrave to double him. So you get a guard and center on Hargrave, and then a lot of running back chips, tight end chips on Bosa. And so it's like when you're just rushing for, and we're going to let these guys have space and win, Armstead and either Gregory or Farrell or Drake Jackson are not winning their one-on-ones consistently in any way. And there's also this kind of weird dysfunction among the pass rush lanes. Like there's times Bosa is rushing, he's getting chipped, and Armstead's taking an outside release when he should be creating space inside, and it's not there. It's like these guys are not playing as one unit. And that's what's frustrating to watch is you see that. And then there's all these times of just missed tackles, things that is hard to understand for a team that has historically been really good about this. My only, I guess, defense of the defense coming out of this is, we talk about D'Amico Ryans' defense like it was just phenomenal all the time. Well, if you go back to October 23rd, literally 365 days ago from the game last night, was the game that the 49ers had their worst defensive performance in 22 years against the Chiefs. And yeah, I know the Chiefs went on to win the Super Bowl, but by DVOA, it was the worst defensive performance. It was ranked 372nd out of 372 games that they had ranked. I mean, we're talking worse than the Erickson era, worse than the Mike Nolan era, worse than the Jim O'Neill under Chip Kelly era. I mean, the defense was bad in that game literally a year ago. From that point, and then if you remember, that carried over to the next week against the Rams, that you had the first half, the Rams were sitting there, just went right down the field. It was a close game, and it felt like, here we go again. And then the second half of that Rams game, it was like the defense flipped a switch, and they turned on, and they just balled out for the rest of the year, except for the Raiders game. But we like to think that, the Ryans defense never had these kind of issues. Again, the Ryans defense gave up more points by this point in the season by a wide margin than what we've given up now. Now, I'm also somebody, I'm frustrated by some of the things you see on the defense, but I don't think it's like tear the house down, fire Wilkes kind of a thing. Because what's your alternative?
So I have a question for you. You talked about some of the attention that has been given to guys like Hargraves and Nick Bosa, and of course, we look at those guys as the big money guys. Are teams not doing the same thing to the other big money guys, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett? Like, are they not getting similar type of attention? Because again, when I turn on the film and watch them, I'm not going to compare Brock Purdy to Patrick Mahomes, right? And when I see Mahomes do some special stuff, I don't expect Purdy to be that. I expect Purdy to be what he's been, be a terrific facilitator. I think he sees the field the way Kyle does very well. He more times than not very efficient, makes the right throws. I thought he made some good layer throws yesterday. All that's great. I don't expect him to do some of the things that Mahomes does. And he tried yesterday when he rolled out to his left and then tried to throw across his body to Brandon Ayuk to the right, and the ball died on him. Like, that's not a throw you like. Mahomes makes that look routine. Herbert makes that look routine. Like, Purdy, that's not what you do, right? So I don't expect Purdy to do the things Mahomes does. I do expect Nick Bosa to do the things that TJ Watt and Myles Garrett does. And I see them week in and week out making impact plays. So are they not getting the same type of attention that's been given to Nick Bosa?
Yes and no. I think sometimes, and this is where I do think that Wilkes needs to do something here, is that you need to put your guys in the best position to succeed. And we saw Ryans do that a lot. He created a lot of one-on-one situations by alignments, by the way that they structured things. Remember, we used to see this all the time where it was like routine. Third down, you'd see Fred Warner come up and he'd stand over the B gap, and they declare Fred Warner there. Most of the time he didn't rush, but why did he do that? Because the offensive line had to account for him. They go 3-by-1, so Bosa's isolated by himself. Sometimes they do it with Ebicom, but then Fred Warner would come and stand over the B gap, and you get 3 guys on the other side of the line. And what that did is that forced a certain line slide. You were going to get a 3-2 slide. You were going to get 2 to Fred Warner side with Bosa and 3 to the other side. That gave you a predictable line protection. Now we don't see that as much. I've seen it a few times, but it's not like it's a routine, because Ryans did so many things out of there, and he would create one-on-one rushing situations in that. And I don't see that same commitment to creating one-on-one rushing situations. And I do have some film here, a clip if you want to see something from the game last night. So let's see if I can share this. All right. See. Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is early in the game. I just clipped it and pulled it over in just a minute or two. See if I can make this a little bit bigger.
Pause.
This is a 3rd and 13, really early in the game. Okay, this is we backed him up. You should be getting off the field, putting your team in a position to win, to the offense to get the ball with great field position here. Okay, so first they do a coverage check. They put the tight end out wide with Mooney Ward over him. That's showing zone coverage. He motions inside. We're running what's called cover 3 Mabel here. So Lenore up the top is in man coverage, and then you have zone coverage. It's a cover 3, the rest of it. And this is almost frustratingly simple how the Vikings end up converting a first down here, because they're just going to run the number 2 guy inside. They're going to run him vertical, and Warner is going to get locked into the number 1 on the outside, thinking he's going to run a little dagger, so a dig in behind this vertical down the seam. And you're going to get Gibson's going to carry him. Hafunga is going to get locked into the number 2 as he comes up for any crossers, because in this cover 3 Mabel, he's got to pick up the crosser. All right. And they end up chipping on Bosa, and you're going to see the protection, how it sits in here. And they dump it down to the tight end off of a chip for a first down on 3rd and 13. How does that happen? I mean, at some point, Fred Warner's got to realize there's no threat here from the number 1. His job really is to carry a vertical out from the number 2. You got to go up and make that tackle. Hafunga stares down the number 1 like he's going to go across the field. After he hits 12 yards, that's Gibson's guy. You pass him off. Both those guys got to go up there and make that tackle. But here you're going to see they're going to bring the tight end into the screen. And this is Bosa. And they're going to chip on him. And they're going to slide this center over to Hargrave. So you're going to get double teams here effectively on Bosa and Hargrave. That's where Gregory and Armstead have got to win their one-on-ones. You can't sit here and just allow both those guys to get double teamed. And I'll run this a little bit slower. So you're seeing the double team on Hargrave. Sorry, go ahead.
The 2 interior offensive linemen for the Vikings were backups in this game as well, right? They were
I don't remember about that. What I do remember, I did watch all the Vikings film coming up to this game, and I talked about it on my show that their offensive line was a lot better at pass protection than people would imagine. They were a lot better. I saw Kirk Cousins get a lot of clean pockets. The one thing they couldn't do was run, but they could pass block. And Kirk Cousins is a guy, you give him time, he's going to dice you up. And that's exactly what happened last night. So here you're seeing Hargraves doubled. The chip is just released on Bosa. And this is what I mean on the space that Armstead's using. Okay, Bosa's getting collapsed down. You're taking an outside rush here. You got all sorts of space to work inside. It's not being used. He's not setting this space up. He's literally rushing himself into the tackle. If you got a chip there, that tackle's going to take a short set. The moment you see this tight end come in here, there needs to be some communication here. Something that says, okay, it's going to be a short set. So that way Armstead can work more inside, create space. Instead, he's going to rush outside. He's going to hit the tackle. And they get clogged up here. I mean, in Kirk Cousins, look at that pocket. I mean, 3rd and 13. That's too easy. You can't do that. Like that's my frustration with the defense in those situations. Then they just had some poor tackling. And offensively, you can't turn the ball over 3 times and expect to win the game.
I think those are definitely some issues. Do you have any thoughts on, because Mike Sales and we were kind of having a debate what side of the ball to blame. I'm like, look, offensively, you just have to score more points in an offensive driven league. Everything is catered towards the offense. Can't touch receivers down the field. They're throwing flags left and right, and back-to-back weeks you're only able to muster up 17 points. So, but he's saying, well, the offense didn't have many opportunities in this game. Defense stayed on the field, giving up plays like you just said. Couldn't get off the field. Only forced a punt and took him to the 3rd quarter. All right. So if we are placing blame on one side of the ball, where would Johnny Dale's blame land?
I think everybody's got a hand in this thing. I mean, even if you just look at the defensive side, there's no one guy here that I can say, okay, that guy was the reason that the defense gave up 7 first downs on 3rd down and that Kirk Cousins threw 2 touchdowns on 3rd down. I can't look at one guy. I think everybody at some point has a hand in this. Hafunga, Warner, Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead, Greenlaw. I mean, Greenlaw, there was a 2nd down. they caught the ball like 3 yards short of the sticks. He bails off of his hit. I think he was worried about getting a flag or something, but the tight end then gets another 6 yards and they get a first down. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff like this. It's just, that's why it's so frustrating to watch. On the offensive side, one thing I talked about, because I watched the Vikings defense as well coming in. I said, if there was one word I could use to sum up the Vikings defense, it's attack, because that's the way Brian Flores is operating. It was just attack, 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 attack. And they did not respond to that in the way that you want to see. It's hard because they didn't just sit there and blitz and play man behind it. And so usually that's Ayuk. That would be the guy that you'd want to see light that up, is Ayuk, be that number one guy, beat that man coverage. He's not there. He was there, but they don't.
Away from him? Why do you think they went away from him in the second half?
They started rolling more zone blitzes in the second half. And so it wasn't like, normally if you're going to see pressure, and this is where Brian Flores makes it really hard, is they're going to show pressure. And what you usually want to use to beat pressure is quick hitters. It's going to be quick outs, quick ins, things like that. What Brian Flores is so good at is that he's going to identify, what do you do to take away pressure? How do you react as an offense to pressure? And then I'm going to have my guys match those routes into your hot areas. And so some of their zones are really hard to kind of figure out exactly what they're doing unless you watch the team the week before that they played and you see, okay, this has a lot to do with what this team likes to do against that hot pressure. And so then you have to then come with a left hand counter to that. And that's why I think you saw Christian McCaffrey on the field so much. Okay, because people talk about CMC's overusage, and why is Jordan Mason not there? Last week against the Browns, Jordan Mason was on the field. They were running jet protection, which means that Jordan Mason is responsible for picking up a blitzer away from the line slide. The line is going to slide to the widest man on the field, which was Myles Garrett on Mason's side. He was in shotgun. Mason's got to pick up. They had a 5-man front. They had a linebacker that was standing up on the edge. So he's not the end man. He's not the widest man. Well, he came on a blitz, and Jordan Mason has to go pick that guy up, because in jet protection, that's what he's supposed to do. Instead, he released out into the passing route, and Brock Purdy had to flush out. It was an incomplete pass, I think. And Brandon Ayuk was wide open. Okay, this was during that time where we had the lead, and everyone said, why do we throw it 3 times in a row? We had Brandon Ayuk wide open by like 4 yards. But you have Jordan Mason blows his protection in that situation. Now you say you're walking in to play Brian Flores, who's going to blitz from every single different way. You're going to have lots of line checks, and your running back, because that's made by the center, has to understand what they're going to check at. Do you really feel confident putting Jordan Mason back there? Or do you feel much more comfortable putting Christian McCaffrey there? I think you feel a lot more comfortable with Christian McCaffrey. And now you bring Jordan Mason in, you're going to say, well, we're telling them we're going to run the ball. There's no question about that. And so I think that's why you saw CMC on the field for almost literally every snap, because it had to do with the amount of pressures that Brian Flores is going to bring. And the only guy I think that they really, really trust in that situation is Christian McCaffrey.
Awesome stuff there by my guy, Johnny Dale. Again, Johnny Dale, thank you for coming on.
Can I ask one
let
more
everyone
question?
know again. Oh, go ahead.
Are other, Eric, you kind of said this, but is like TJ Watt also not getting chipped in the same way that Bosa is? Like, is there something, because wasn't he always being chipped in double team? Why, in your opinion, is there like this lack of production compared to like last year? Because Nick Bosa's always had that.
Well, yeah. So again, I think it has to do with the amount of resources that are being given to Bosa. When you're the reigning defensive player of the year, teams are going to be putting that splash reel that you have up every year, every week, and saying you cannot let this guy change the game. Now, it is a different defensive system. TJ Watt plays a little bit different. Sometimes he's dropping into coverage. He plays as a 3-4 outside linebacker. He drops into coverage more than Nick Bosa does. So you can't just always say we're going to chip him, or else you're chipping a guy that's dropping into coverage and they're bringing 4 somewhere else. Bosa, I did see him drop into coverage once this game. That was a little weird to see. But it's a situation where if you look at the numbers, Nick Bosa is being double teamed more than any other player in the league. He's being double teamed at like a rate of 52%, something like that. I think the next guy's at 43, 44. So it is higher. What I'm seeing is teams are devoting more resources to this 49ers defensive line than I've really ever seen in the past. I just watched one clip here. It was while y'all were talking, where they ran a 2-man route. They kept 8 guys in the block, and they ran a 2-man route. and they got an over route, hit it for a big gain. You know, when you see teams do that, when I remember going back to the Giants film, the Giants almost every single play kept 6, 7, 8 guys in the block every time. And that puts your defensive coordinator in it. It does put them in a little bit of a bind where your back end has to play better, because if you play zone, you have guys covering grass and they've outmatched your rush. If you blitz, then your guys have to hold up in man coverage. And we haven't always done either.
Okay. That's good to know, because I didn't realize there was that big of a difference between Bosa and the other guys.
No, that's great stuff right there. Johnny, tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, can I find me on Twitter at Johnny Dells? It's really meant to be an S as possessive because it's Johnny Dells Football Academy. But or on YouTube at Johnny Dells Football Academy. I'll be working on this breakdown. I'm about to jump into the offensive side, and hopefully, maybe tonight it gets released. There's a lot of editing that goes into it to really try and show everybody what's in my head, and that probably most likely tomorrow morning is when it's going to come out.
Awesome stuff.
I'm looking
All right,
forward
Johnny,
to it.
appreciate
I
you
love
for
them.
coming on, man.
Absolutely, anytime. Appreciate you, Croc.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, great stuff from our guy Johnny. All right, we got 5 more minutes, and I'm gonna let this guy blow some steam. I know how my guy Mr. Blue Magic come, my guy from the East Coast. He's finna come with it. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. All right, so here we go. We saved the best for last. All right, Mr. Blue Magic. How you doing, man? Oh no, that said it all right there. That said it all right
Yeah,
there.
Croc, you know I'm about to go in. You know I'm about to go in. It's been a minute. I've been busy. Look, I ain't even shaved. I've been all over the place. Let's jump right into it. Johnny was right. There's no one person to put sole blame on. This is a whole collapse all across the board, from coaches to players. But I want to get to the question that you asked: who deserves the most blame? And it's unfortunate who I'm about to name, but it's the truth. And we've got to start keeping it a buck. Brock Purdy is to blame for this loss. We can give him all the credit, and I tweeted he played excellent for 80% of the game, and that's cool to hang our hats on when we win. But you had 2 drives, 2 back-to-back game-winning drives, and you threw picks. It's not like, okay, well, he played and the defense just solidified it, and we were that close, and we missed, we turnover on downs by inches. Nah, he threw 2 picks. Had that been any other quarterback in the league, he'd have been killed. He'd have been crushed. Brock Purdy is an amazing story, and we love to root for the underdog as a species. So it's easy. It was easy to root for him. It was easy to praise him. This was a total team collapse. Don't get me wrong, but in those moments, this is where you have to step up. I see a lot of blame on Steve Wilkes, and that's why I'm glad Johnny came up and broke down just the piece that he broke down. Because at some point in time, the coaches aren't on the field. The players have to play. Nothing is going to be perfect. If everything that the coach put in place was set up perfectly, we'd have tie games every week. Like no one would win anything. So nothing that a coach puts in play is going to work out perfectly. You think teams that go 2 and 15, you think the coaches aren't coaching? The players have to play at some point in time. And I tweeted this about the Steve Wilkes blitz at the end of the half. Had we come up with that pick, he put his player in a perfect position. The ball hit Mooney. It hit him. He won that 50-50 ball early in the game. And he was golden. He was a made man at that point. Addison got his get back. The boy that was a it's like in basketball. He could be draped all over Steph Curry. You could have your hand a millimeter away from the ball. You could be 7 feet 2. It was great defense, but it was better offense. So we can't go with because had we got a pick six just in, not D'Amico, Steve Wilkes would have been a genius. They'd have been singing his praise, but because the play he set up didn't work and it backfired, the receiver made a great offensive play. Now we're coming for his head. This is another thing that we have to remember. This is not Wilkes' defense. This is not his scheme. He's coming into a scheme that he knows nothing about. He has to run the scheme the way Kyle wants him to run it. So if you go, even if you want to come for Wilkes, you got to come for Kyle because you're going to run this. You're going to run this defense as a defensive coordinator the way I want you to run it. The system I want you to run it. The system that you are not a savant in. A system that you're learning yourself as well as the players. On top of the fact that all off season, he had to develop this defense without Nick Bosa. So
That
now
move needs a lot more criticism nowadays, huh?
we gave Debo a whole bunch of flack for his negotiation tactics and so forth and so on. But the one thing you got to give him credit for was he was in the training camp. He was there all season. He was working, even with the whole get me up out of here, so forth and so on. This team, and it revolves around CMC, obviously. But once again, you can't shut players out. You can't shut players out. If you constantly have Ayuk running routes for no reason, going back to the Jimmy days, you got me running routes for no reason. There's no way Brandon Ayuk should have been targeted one time. I don't care if we don't hit on him.
One time in the second half, but yeah.
In the second half. One time in the second half. You're down 5. He's your best receiver. And even going back to the Mason thing, right? So Johnny had a point. We know certain players come in. It's for certain. It's for certain reasons. If you got a spot up shooter, I know you not coming off a curl. I don't have to worry about you going back door for an alley. I know how to play you. I know where to play you. So we give Kyle this credit as being an offensive genius. But you're underutilizing the rest of your team. And I've seen a lot today. I've watched a lot of lives. I did a lot of catching up on Twitter. And it's funny when we was going 30 and 30 plus. Oh, these playmakers are amazing. And now today, after 2 weeks, the playmakers are overrated. Now the playmakers are overrated. But Kyle's a genius. You got the truth in Brock Purdy. But now you're blaming receivers. CMC fumbled in the first quarter. He's the reason we lost the game. But on 2 back-to-back drives, our offense comes up short. And not just short, with 2 turnovers. Nah, we not the Cowboys. And I'm going to keep saying this so long as this fan base keep moving like this. We ain't the Cowboys.
They're acting like it. They're acting like front runners. They're acting like they're the bullies, but then when a team finally wants to match them and hit them in the mouth, then all of a sudden they're scared. You're like, this is not your identity. Why are you doing this?
Why are we not using George Kittle?
at all. Dude.
Why are we not using
4
Kyle
targets.
Juszczyk?
He's always open.
We could talk about Mason.
So annoying.
Kyle Juszczyk is one of the greatest blocking backs in the history of the league. So why are we not playing both of them? And even with Mason, okay, so we want to use Christian. Christian is a great isolator. He's a great decoy. He commands all the attention. Put him and Mason in the backfield together.
The broadcast kept talking about how the 49ers do that more than any other team in the league. Have two backs back there. Yeah, instead of Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey, why don't they do Christian McCaffrey and Mason?
Now you slide him up. Now you slide him into the slot. What you gonna do? What you gonna do with your linebackers? You gonna come and stack this box and leave Christian 1-on-1? Or you gonna let Jordan Mason gash you for 6+ yards of carry like he's been doing? There was a time when Kyle would do that. You got in the game, you ran 3 plays and you averaging 7 yards of carry. I don't care who started. Yeah, come on, let's go. There's no more riding a hot hand. BA been cooking. Then you ice him out.
Interesting stuff. Mr. Blue Magic, we got to get out of here.
I know. This one's gonna be quick. So we talk about it's a win now team, right? We couldn't take a chance on young players, so forth and so on. But we're doing it with Brock. We won't use no other talent, no other young talent. We won't see what they have. We won't scheme up for them. Everybody's focused on Christian. We won't slip in Ronnie Bell. Come on, Kyle.
All right. I know a lot of people were hitting the panic button. Not time to panic just yet. Mr. Blue Magic, appreciate you. Appreciate you for coming on.
You know,
All right. Mark Davis said,
like
Croc,
you.
let him cook. I wanted to let him cook, but I got to pee. And we got locked on 49ers. I got to record in like 5 minutes. All right. So I do want to say thank you to everybody for coming on, everybody that contributed to such a great show. Shout out to Ashley. Ashley, let everybody know where they can find you.
You guys can follow me on YouTube at Ashley Ariana. I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers, so everyone should go subscribe. And then Ash Ariana on Twitter as well. I had my reaction to the game from yesterday, and I'm going to have a live stream with Jose Sanchez. He writes for Sports Illustrated Fan Nation later on today, and a bunch of stuff this week. So everyone should follow me. Thank you.
You are about to be approaching monetization.
I'm excited. Is that how it works? 1,000?
You have to have 1,000 subscribers and then 4,000 watch hours. So once you hit the 4,000 watch hours,
everyone go subscribe and watch.
All right. But appreciate everybody else for coming on. A lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to break down. I should have a show coming up with Bengals guys on Thursday. I'm seeing if they can record an hour earlier than the time they gave me. My daughters, they got basketball training on Thursday, so I won't be able to make their time. Hopefully they can move that time so we can talk to some Bengals guys, get some other teams on here. Shout out to Ash, shout out to Mr. Blue Magic, shout out to Johnny Dale, shout out to Tia. Who else came on here? Shout out to Mike Shields. Shout out to everybody that contributed to such a great show. But hit that like button, subscribe, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.